Are you ready for progress? Oh, taste and see, there's a word for you and me.
Serving the uncompromising truth makes us truly free.
Open your heart, your mind, your soul, he'll make you whole.
Preaching with power.
It's the relevant leadership strategist.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is another great Monday. Don't know how you've been spending your weeks, or certainly the start of your week, but we have been busy developing and researching and doing all those things that we deem necessary as we begin to navigate in this pandemic. Lady Wright, God bless you. Certainly glad to have you having lunch with us at our digital table. So we appreciate you, certainly do. Overseer Hyman, God bless you, sir. As always, it's great having you with us. Good evening. Good evening, Ebony. God bless. You all do me a favor. Share this video. You could possibly even bring some of your coworkers in and let them sit at our digital table as we begin to have a discussion about post-pandemic leadership thoughts. One of the things that is near and dear to my heart, and many of you know, it is leadership. It is something that I've written four. I've written 4 books on leadership already, and not finished. I'll probably be writing some more. And we have been thinking a lot about what leadership is and looks like within the construct and place that we're in currently. And not that the foundation of leadership changes, but some of the expressions of it and functionality of it may actually have to go through a bit of a metamorphosis, if you will, because of what has been offered to us through this pandemic. Again, I appreciate you all coming in. Thank you, Minister Green, for getting in, and thank you for thanking the people. Thank you, Lady Wright, Co-Pastor Wright, Evangelist Wright, Preacher Wright, and Preach It Right. You do. Thank you for sharing it. If you and when you share it, hashtag shared to let me know that you're partnering with me for lunch and that we're going to be able to be a blessing. Please let me know if I'm able to be heard well. I have invited 2 of God's finest. I've invited 2 of God's finest. Pastor Burt Wright Jr. God bless you, man. Thank you for having lunch with us today. 2 of God's finest. I've been watching and been around one of them a whole lot. The other, I've not been around as much, but had the wonderful opportunity of vicariously being around him through social media and texting. And I don't remember whether or not we've actually had a phone conversation. If we did, I'm sure it was a blessing. And so these 2, in my estimation, are 2 of God's brightest thinkers, the 2 of the most forward-thinking individuals, and they lead with an edge needed to cut through the thickness of whatever's happening in our current world and current situation. God has been very good to both of them, and he hadn't been fair really with them at all, because he gave them all the gifts and left us with the rest. And so you get a chance to sit and glean from the genius of these 2. One, we have prepped and ready in our green room, and we're going to bring him on. He is Overseer Aaron McNair Jr. And I'm going to kind of let him introduce himself to you with all of the things he has going on, man. Here recently, God has blessed his socks off, and hopefully he'll get a chance to share a little bit of that as well. So, Overseer Aaron McNair Jr., God bless you, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Bishop. Thank you for this opportunity.
Man, listen, again, it's my honor to have you on our broadcast. Would you take a minute? And I don't know if the people have been under a rock or maybe in a cave. They may not know you. They had to either be under a rock or in a cave. And so, would you introduce yourself to the audience and kind of let them know not just your name, but where you pastor and just all those attributes that you have?
Yes, sir. I am Aaron McNair, and I pastor here in Raleigh, North Carolina at Mount Moriah Community Church here that was started by my father, and I had the opportunity to take over the leadership in 2015. And at the beginning of this year, I became the senior pastor of Deeper Life Church Ministries in my hometown, Goldsboro, North Carolina, that was founded by Apostle Norbert E. Simmons. So I have the opportunity of serving two churches. So I get the best of worlds. One is a large church, and one is a small church. So it's great to be able to jump back and forth between the two dynamics and lead both locations.
Which I think, man, is a unique opportunity that you have. Well, actually, you've been given two real unique opportunities. One, when you were pastoring the church, I believe you founded, or I don't know if it was an extension of your father's church. You were their senior pastor, but you were still serving at your father's church that Sunday morning. And so you were going from secondary leader to senior pastor to secondary leader. And now with that dynamic, you also have the dynamic of larger church, smaller church context. You sort of packed with wisdom and information. I can't wait to listen and glean in on some of you. Our second guest is here, sitting in the green room, and we're going to bring him on. And then all three of us will have an opportunity to kind of talk during lunch, and I believe be a blessing to the people. This fella, again, you'd had to be under a rock somewhere if you don't know him. He is, now, I don't necessarily believe in this, by the way. I don't believe that there's none of us are machines, but I understand the connotation when people say it, preaching machine. Without literally calling him a machine, because he is not, he is literally a preaching machine. The stuff he does with his throat isn't real. And when I see God, I'm going to ask him, why did he do all of that for an Aaron McNair and our next guest and just left me totally out? So if you will, help me welcome in the pastor, Reshawn Wilson, the preaching machine himself.
Blessings, gentlemen. How are you both?
We're trying to cut me off while I'm trying to add.
Okay, so hold on, wait. So here's the thing. So two challenges. So number one, I can't hear. I was reading your lips, so that's why I braced to come on.
Oh.
And I don't know what that challenge is.
Can you
I
hear
see
us
you
now?
all have perfect communication, so I don't know why.
Maybe go out and come back in and see if that works.
I'm unmuted.
Yeah,
That's strange.
I'm gonna send him a chat. Try to go out and come back in.
Yes, sir.
All right. So he while he's working on his technical difficulty, one of the things I was anticipating was the fact that because I kind of feel like this is going to be a blessing to people, that there will be something digitally that'll happen, something wrong with the internet, something wrong with the, I kind of felt like something like that was going to happen because what I believe is going to take place during this particular moment. And so, sir, we were kind of talking about the two unique dynamics that you have that I don't know very many people who's been able to be exposed to that, one as early as you have, because you are a millennial, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So you're the millennial, and I'm Generation X, by the way. But very few. Well, I'm Generation X, closer to millennial than on the other end. But very few people. I've not known anyone to have lived in the dynamic that you've lived in. Can you kind of talk to that for a second?
Sure. Well, you mentioned me serving my father, and I was my father's minister of music for 17 years. And I counted it an honor and a privilege. And he was actually the pastor of our Raw location, and he would teach twice in the mornings in Farmville, and then he would come to Raleigh. And any day, any Sunday, any given Sunday, he would do maybe 2 to 3 services or 3 to 4 services a Sunday. And I just thought it was a little too weighty. And as a son, me and my brother, Pastor Sherman Blandon, we kind of sat him down and asked him about taking the load off of him. And the actual initial plan was to put Pastor Sherman Blandon in Raleigh, but it didn't work out that way. And so we wanted to take that load off of our father to see him handling so much. And I didn't want to, I felt the need to continue to support and be a pusher behind his ministry. And so I remained as minister of music at our Farmville location, which was 9 o'clock in the morning, and then gave me a time to get a rest, and then come to Raleigh at 5 p.m. and minister there. And then I was very reluctant even with this opportunity because of my loyalty and commitment to my father's ministry to take on this new ministry. But he gave me his blessing, and he told me about his past opportunities that he didn't take, and sort of kind of regrets a little bit. And so he wanted me to take a different path. He didn't want to hold me back. So he pushed me. He pushed me to where I am now. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to serve where I'm serving. And it is a great opportunity, great dynamic that I'm dealing with. The pastor of the current church that I'm serving now in the morning is a great friend to my father. I grew up following his ministry. I learned the spirit of excellence from him. So it still have that connection. Still have that connection that I have with my father, even with this pastor. So it's been a great opportunity, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Awesome. I can't wait for you to. I got a couple of questions for you concerning that whole piece. Something you said that I think is important is that your father pushed you toward opportunities that he missed, and there are a lot of people who have stood in the servant's position but had to fight or even rip relationships in order to take opportunities. And there was no fight there with you. It was only a push from your father birthing out the son that he was carrying so that that son can walk on his own. No parent wants their child handicapped or attached to them the whole while. They always want their children to grow and be better. And I think that's a testament to your father, man. That's an awesome thing that he did. And what I believe many people should do, you are birthing them out to do, not just, holding on to them. For those who are called for that. Now there's some who want to get birthed out to go lead out the house when their call is literally to lead in the house. Because truthfully speaking, there's more help needed in the house than out. But I digress. I think that we have the machine back, and so again, if you guys have been under a rock, you don't know him. I don't know why, but he'll introduce himself and let you know where he serves, and then we'll keep this conversation going.
Well, blessings a second time. Um, I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity. I'm Rashawn Wilson. I lead Southside Impact Church here in Charleston, South Carolina. Southside Impact Church is actually a or the result of a merger. I planted Impact Church 5 years ago, and we started sharing space in our earlier years with an already established church, Southside Baptist Church. So we were just sharing space because, we're homeless. We started with what I call the NMs. That's no money, no model, no members, no meeting space. And so just renting out a place, meeting at 2:30 in the evenings after their service was done. And then we started entertaining the idea of, what does it look like for us to be stronger together? And Southside Baptist Church had establishment, but no people. We had people, but no establishment. So we merged our resources, and now what was Southside Baptist Church and Impact Church is now Southside Impact Church. And I am humbled to lead this phenomenal group of people. We are endeavoring to be a multicultural, family-oriented, transgenerational Christian community. We're in a what I often refer to as a socioeconomic, cultural, and racial epicenter. So it's just a phenomenal task at hand to really create an opportunity for what I believe to be the glue that can bring our community together. In fact, I often refer to where we are geographically as a neighborhood, but a neighborhood is just neighbors in the hood. We're trying to make it a community because the community is common unity. Right now, we see what I call segregated integration. So you have people from different walks of life, racial, cultural backgrounds, but there's not really a sense of family orientation. And so we believe that the hope of the gospel can create that. And that's the thing that continues to drive us. So I'm just grateful to be here on this call, on this live with these two dynamic individuals. And I'm not saying that just to say it. Both Bishop Brown and Overseer McNair both know my sentiments toward them. So I'm humbled.
So how did you say that there you cannot have community without unity?
Community is common unity. And I think that's one of the things that we just really don't see in the body of Christ. In our individual churches as well as abroad. We see neighborhoods, we see huddles, we see cliques, but we don't really see a sense of community, a sense of finding the underlining driving force that stretches beyond our differences and aim toward working at that.
Okay, so we're about 19 minutes in. Let's jump in the conversation with both feet. There's someone who has their Subway. They've already gotten their order. They're sitting down ready. Chick-fil-A or wherever they decide to eat at. I've had my second cup of coffee, and so I think I'm ready to roll. Here's the first question that I'd like to ask, and we can all kind of tackle it. Jump in how you feel. Currently, we're actually in the pandemic. It's not over. It's not gone. Let me say that again. It's not over. It's not gone. I don't care what you hear. Well, I don't care what you're hearing from certain higher up offices that are attempting to have you go back out and begin to spend that stimulus money. See, what I've been saying is they only loaned you that money so that you can give it right back to them by going and spending it in commerce. They want the economy to kick back in. And so to Hades with your health, because we want our economy working well. And it's kind of funny that they started loosening the restraints when you had money in your pocket, but they kept you locked down when you had nothing. And so we are still in a pandemic, and you should still stay home, and that has nothing to do with your faith. But I digress in that comment. With that being said, the landscape of leadership in the pandemic, how do you see that? How do you see the landscape of leadership?
I'll yield to Overseer McNair.
First of all, can you all hear me? I had one say turn my volume up. I want to make sure you all can hear me.
You still sound like you're a little far away from it. So, I mean, I don't know how to fix that. Better.
Okay, good. So I would say that from a personal standpoint, it has been a learning process through this. And what I see as a leader in the pandemic is I'm having to reevaluate how I handle balance. One of the biggest things is trying to reevaluate how I handle balance, because now the production of our worship, the production of everything that we're doing to keep in contact, to keep our people engaged with one another, is taking up more time than I have to study, taking up more time than I have to write. And so I'm trying to make sure that I handle that balance on top of having a family. And being quarantined in, you're around them more, but you feel a little more guilty about having to push away from them to do other things, other work for the kingdom. So I think balance has been challenged during this time. That's one perspective.
You know, I was saying I forget who I was talking to, but I said to them that I am more tired now, sheltered in place, than I was when I was traveling from place to place.
Absolutely.
That the mental grind and that creativity that comes behind the mental grind is taxing. So by the time you finish with, you know, what you're doing, what you're planning, how you're producing it, and all those kind of things, the day is gone. And then it's, you know, run, try to find something to eat, sit, try to get with the family, try to do some of those particular pieces. And it becomes exhausting. And so this has literally offered, as you just stated, the challenge of a new kind of balance with leaders. And if you're not careful, you'll end up burning out mentally instead of burning out physically. Yeah. Pastor Wilson, hop in.
I tell you what, both of you have shared my heart. Here's the thing, and I literally just said something like this to our leaders, or at least our core team. I was meeting with them via conference call just a couple of days ago, and I asked them to pray for me. Now, this is something I've never done in almost 6 years of actually being a senior leader. I have had a mindset, and the mindset still remains the same, and it is, but you got to hear me all the way through. There is no such thing as burnout, ... when you are solely functioning in passion that is ordained for a particular period of time. Okay. Burnout is not the result of imbalance. Burnout is not the result of never resting. Burnout is the result of doing something that you are not ordained to do in a particular time. And in other words, whenever you confuse what you're called to with what you can do, it produces burnout. Just because you can do it doesn't necessarily mean you're called to it. Let's take a singer. Singers don't get burnout. You sing in the shower. You sing when things are good. You sing when you're happy. I sing because I'm free, right? You're never going to get burnout. But if you start doing something in addition to that you may not necessarily be called to, that's what produces it. I asked our core team to pray for me. And I told them, I said, because I'm feeling burnout. The reason, Bishop Brown, why you didn't feel this when you were traveling is because that's what you were ordained to do at that particular time. Overseer McNair, I said the same thing to my family. I I need to repent. Some of this is metaphoric and figurative, not actually literal. But in some instances, I see my family less now, although I'm around them more. And it's because, well, one of the reasons why that's taking a toll on me is because that's not what I've been created to do. You know what I mean? I can study 40 hours a week and never get worn out, but I'm not a media pastor. So when I have to get into a place where I have to manage production, pre-record, etc., edit, those types of things that growing churches have to do because we may not have a fully established or staffed media team, that's what creates burnout. Anyway, just to chime in, I can understand. And I think that the reassessment has to be, how do we now establish an infrastructure that can uphold this kind of happening, because it will happen again. It may or may not happen in our lifetime, but it will happen again. And we just got to do what we got to do to make certain that we, as well as those who come behind us, are prepared for it.
You know, we are in probably, I think, one of the most important times in church history. I really believe that. And it is the birthing of creatives, or at least for those who've already been creative, like yourself and Overseer McNair, the revealing of those creatives. But in your words, if my creativity is more vision oriented than it is media, doing the actual work of the media orientation, then although it's a great skill to pick up, you just get worn out from, or better stated, dull in your creativity, because although I can do it, I'm not called to do it. You could screw in a screw with a butter knife, but a butter knife isn't called to screw in screws. It's called to spread butter. I can do it and it'll get in and it'll be secure, but I'm dulling myself and possibly even chipping myself. So when it comes time for me to do what I was called to do, now I'm warped and chipped, and some may feel like I'm more ragged or jagged in my new functionality, and it had nothing to do with the fact that I couldn't spread butter. It was that I was trying to screw screws when no one else who actually is a screwdriver would have an idea and come up with anything. Something you said, Wilson, that just blessed my heart, was talking about the difference between administrators and secretaries. And that whole idea, I believe, sir, is just needed in this moment. And so maybe speak to that, and then, or I'll let Aaron speak to it first, since you came up with the thought. I want to hear his ideas. Well, I guess you got to point that way. Hear his ideas, and then we'll let you loose.
I haven't been privileged to hear this revelation, so I want to hear it first before I give way to it.
Oh, I'm sorry. But maybe, okay, yeah. Well, Wilson,
well, yeah. So, Pastor Mac, Bishop Brown has he has pushed me to write a book on it, and prayerfully I'll be able to do it soon. This whole idea of people on vacation during quarantine, I want to know what that feels like, because I hadn't had any me time. Several other preacher friends said they're going on vacation after this is over, and the saints are going to be like, "Wait, we coming off vacation? No, y'all coming off vacation." But anyway, so I'll try to do this in like a minute and a half. But there are primarily, based upon my submission, two primary, because you have a multiplicity, but you have two primary kinds of leaders and leadership styles, and that's administrative leadership and secretarial leadership. The most common identity is secretarial leadership. And here's the reason why that's common, because a lot of us have people on our staff. Now, I'm not talking about secretaries and administrators alone. I'm talking about the kinds and styles of leadership. So it doesn't matter what your position is, either you function secretarially or administratively. But the most commonly occupied function is the secretarial approach. That is the gopher approach. That is the you give me what I need and then I can make it work. And we need those people. Good people, like people who function as good secretaries. Pastor, what do you need? Okay, great, I've got it. Pastor, what do you think we should do? Okay, great, I'll get on it. That's the person that you have to say, hey, listen, I need you to write a letter to the mayor. I need you to include these bullet points. I need you to identify a date for correspondence. This is that particular date. I need you to grab me a cup of coffee, heavy on the cream, light on the sugar. They'll say, sir, yes, sir, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And they'll get it done. All right. And the reason why that's frustrating for most visionaries is because we cannot maximize vision to its optimum with secretarial style leadership alone. The administrative approach is different because while the secretary needs you to give them directions and instructions and insight, the administrative leadership style functions on the opposite scale. Although you have to tell the secretary, hey, I need you to do this, and then they say, yes, sir. The administrative style is where that leader now comes to the senior leader. All right, that manager now comes to the visionary and they're bringing the insight. They have done the work. They're the ones that's saying, hey, listen, so May 4th begins Teacher Appreciation Week, and it's January, so Pastor, we should go ahead and start working on that. Hey, you know what I mean? Because if we have to think about it, that robs us from having the opportunity to really delve into the Word of God. And so I've really just been trying to help secondary leaders understand that your pastor is the captain, you are the crew. And if you are functioning as an administrative leader, it is your responsibility to go to him and say, hey, so Pastor, listen, so we saw that there's an iceberg 3 miles ahead. If we maintain this course, we are going to be shipwrecked. However, we have already designed and developed an algorithm that will take us around the iceberg, avoid shipwreck. And if we go due south at whatever concordance, we will make up these nautical miles and still get to our destination on time. So that's what I think really, really needs to happen in this time. Most people say, well, we don't know what we don't know. Well, I don't know either. I've never pastored through a pandemic, but the hunger and thirst to lead people drives me to being able to dig. And so I think that if we have people that could take the shovels from out of our hand and dig for us, then we could pray for rain to lick up the water from the trench when it comes.
That's absolutely amazing. I would add to that and offer this perspective, offer something that you've told me before, and that is good leaders make themselves unnecessary. With that statement, I think that our struggle is we've been trying to push all of our leaders to operate administratively, and with that, we come into a problem, especially when you're pastoring a small church and you have to move at the speed that we have to move. You end up trying to empower people and pressure people to operate on a level that they cannot because they don't have your spirit. And so them operating administratively actually hurts because their decisions don't line up with your level of excellence and your level of expectation. And so what do you say we do in that perspective where you have so many who could be trusted on this level, should be trusted on that level, but can't be trusted on that level because they don't have your spirit?
Wow. Was that for me or Bishop?
I was just asking in general.
Go ahead, Bishop.
Well, no, I was just going to say that's an excellent question. And two thoughts came to my mind when you asked the question. One is, of course, at this moment, it's a little late to attempt to pour yourself into people. But that aside, I think having more of those conference calls and Zoom meetings and talking about how you view and how you see certain things. So, and giving them examples, like, for instance, if we want to do something for teacher appreciation, one of my one of my ministers sent me something the other day, and I thought, perfect, let's do it. I don't want to think about it. Sounds good to me. Just tell me what you want me to do. Something that we could do for them. And because for, I don't know, almost a year or so, we would have an hour to 2 hour meeting every week. And all I would do is cut and shape and talk about how I view and how I see certain things and how it should work out, almost to the degree of, and we've actually done it, we've gotten what's called an SOP for just different things. Now, of course, we're going to have to create an SOP for crisis, but that'll be something we'll talk about a little later. So they know my expectations generally when it comes to producing or promoting a certain thing that's attached to the sword of truth. And they understand, now this is not you. I know you got the gift for it, but you're representing the sword of truth. And so you may not want to stand at the front of the store and say, welcome to Walmart, but you're working for Walmart. Put that little coat on, get you some orthopedic shoes, and stand right there and say, welcome to Walmart, with a big smile. And if you can't do that, then I can't use you in this particular place. The second thought was, it's kind of like what Wilson said. I mean, we just got to make it happen. I was talking to Bishop Young a little earlier today, and one of the things that he drilled in me as I was serving him, and still serve, by the way, but as I was serving him, is to know how to do as best you can every single thing as it relates to ministry. And so I used to make sure that I could do it all, but let other people do it, because I was focusing on other things. But if they ever thought that was what, I needed them, I got a Beyonce spirit real quick, to the left, to the left. Everything you own is in the box to the left. Don't you ever for 1 second get to thinking you're irreplaceable. You must not know about me. One of the only other places I was unable to really mess with them in was that music department. But then they got an app now for that. So you press, but now I want to do that. But I'm just saying, I've learned how to just kind of do it all. And so we got to do it ourselves until Joseph shows up. My thoughts.
For me, first of all, I absolutely agree. Coming up through the ranks, when I served at Life Center with Bishop Brian Moore, literally, I had the opportunity to do a little bit of everything. There were only a couple of things in church that I did not get an opportunity to do, but it was almost like I was cross-trained. And because of that, I pretty much know how, there's only a little bit that I don't know how to do. For me, my perspective is that there was an absence or a misconstruence. I don't know if that's a word, but I know that people have because I'll make up a word in a moment, and because I speak intelligently.
See, when you walk in the episcopacy, the bishops and the overseers and the apostles can make up words, and so you're just functioning in your calling. But go ahead. All you had to do is add nest to it. You would have.
Gotcha. So a perception adjustment has to be made, because Pastor Mac, Bishop Brown, the fact of the matter is, it's really, this is just my perspective, and it's not law, it's just the way I see it. I don't think that it's a lack of pour. I think that it's a lack of perception. And when I say pour, I mean P-O-U-R. It's not a lack of pour, it's a lack of perception. Because when your perception is adjusted, you recognize there's never a time when my leader is not pouring. The only time I don't receive bread is if I don't see my pastor as a baker. And so I think...
Wait. Say that again, but say it slower so I can write it.
Yes, sir. The only time I don't have bread is if I don't see my pastor as a baker. It's all about perception. It's not about the pour, P-O-U-R. It is about the perception. Because if my perception is adjusted, I realize there is never a time when my leader isn't pouring. Even during a casual conversation, I can call my bishop just to say hello, but I posture myself to receive something. Therefore, I never leave his presence absent from an impartation. You see, there are a lot of people who have challenges with the whole sonship model, sonship, daughterhood. I normally just say sonship, but it includes males and females. And honestly, even for you, Pastor Mac, and I know that you're, you and I, we are much, well, we're not much, but we are younger than Dr. Brown. But at the end of the day, I'm not saying that young people should, just walk around trying to quote unquote son everybody or quote unquote daughter everybody. But at some point, we have to consider what Malachi said. Malachi said something that I think is powerful. And this, a lot of times people only visit Malachi to talk about tithe.
Yeah.
But Malachi says that that the time will come. This is before we hear the entrance of Jesus's birth announcement. 400 years later, after all of the silence, Malachi said the time will come when the hearts of the fathers will be turned, watch this, to the sons, but the hearts of the sons will be turned to their fathers. Okay, I'll say that again. Malachi says the hearts of the fathers will be turned to the sons, and the hearts of the sons will be turned to their fathers. So sonship is all about perception. Elijah said to Elisha, well, you've asked a hard thing, but if you see me when I go up, the original text says, if you see me as I am to you. In other words, Elijah wasn't walking around calling Elisha son, but the moment Elisha saw him as a father, the mantle dropped. Departure wasn't even required for the distribution of the mantle. The only reason why the mantle didn't drop until Elijah went up is because it took Elisha that long to get his perception right. So had Elisha saw, you know what, this is my father, he would have gotten the mantle before they crossed the Jordan. He would have gotten the mantle before they went to Jericho. I think that's what it is. I've never been one of the people that believe in more than one spiritual father. That's just a personal thing. But when I submitted to Bishop L. Spencer Smith, although in previous years he called me little brother, I called him big brother. But once I submitted myself to his rod of authority, I intentionally see him as a father. I posture myself as a son, and that's what causes me to get his spirit, because certain things are only inherited by sons. You can be a faithful member, but there are only. Oh, I think I better stop talking.
All right, Pastor Mac, Overseer Mac, hop in. Hop in. Oh, you were the one that asked the question, didn't you?
Can't hear you.
Uh-oh. You can't hear us?
Can you hear me? I can hear you, Wilson. I can't hear Bishop.
That's interesting.
Well, Bishop wanted you to hop in and chime in on what I just shared.
Okay, I got thrown out and I kind of missed a lot of what you said, but you were speaking to perception.
Yeah, based on your question, I was simply, just your question was, how do we do that? For individuals who may not be, mature or ready to occupy certain places. I gave an extended answer, but now my composed answer was that I think that we're going to have to really, really, really revisit the whole concept of sonship and fatherhood, because I promise you, I teach leadership all the time. But the things that I teach in sessions were not things that I learned in sessions. The things that I teach in sessions were things that I learned through serving.
Yeah.
Right.
So if Overseer Mac can't hear me, he may have to go out and come back in again. That way you don't have to be my translator for what I'm saying, but you can let him know that.
Okay, Pastor Mac, you may have to leave out and, okay, come back in again.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So Pastor Wilson, I was trying to keep it within a certain time frame, and we're getting very, very close to that time frame now. You know, I could talk all day with you, and certainly Overseer Mac, who is a brilliant mind. I want to get to a couple of more questions, and then there was one that was asked on the live that I want to grab. As well. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Awesome. So let's move to a couple of more of these questions, and one of them, as I stated, will answer a question that Harrison put up, and I want to kind of get to that. It's going to be a dual kind of question, but we'll see if we can get it all answered as we answer it. What's your thoughts on when you return to the physical building? How is it going to look? Are we going to have church as usual? Will it be a slight change? Is something going to? Do we need to put a couple of things in place? I was grappling with this because one of the calling cards of the Sword of Truth is the fact that we hug everybody. We have a 7 hug minimum at our church, that you're going to receive at least 7 hugs before you leave our building. And so now, are we going to have to shift that, change that? How are we going to do baptism? Are they going to dip themselves? And what's that going to look like when we go back into the building? And I guess going now more into the headliner of what this whole lunch moment was about. What will leading look like post-pandemic?
Well, I think that as far as us returning back to the building, I think that it's going to take time for people to get readjusted and get to a place where they feel comfortable doing the things that we used to do. I think that we would eventually, of course, get back to where people feel comfortable with communion, people feel comfortable with baptism, with hugging, because people are missing that now, although we joke about not wanting to talk to our neighbors and things of that nature. But I think that's something that we miss now. But I think it's going to take time for people to get back to a place where they're comfortable going back into those things. And I think as pastors, we're going to have to be very sensitive to that. One of the things that I was thinking about this morning is not only are we learning how to be good leaders in a pandemic, but we are serving people who are trying to figure out how to be members in the pandemic. And I don't think we should be too strenuous or hard on those who are trying to figure this thing out as while we are trying to figure it out. So I think that we have to take the time, and whatever we have to adjust, let's make those adjustments so that people feel comfortable before they go back to the normality of things, if there is a way of going back to normality.
I do think that there is a way. I don't know what that way is, but history shows us, I think it was 1918 when the Spanish flu hit. That was a little over 100 years ago. Individuals were wearing masks then. Police officers had to wear masks then. If you went out in the streets, you had to wear masks. Schools were shut down. Churches were shut down. And watch this. This happened like right after Azusa. Right after the Azusa Street revival. So these were people who, I mean, were filled with, you know, the Holy Ghost, and you know, but they still shut down churches, or at least church services, and then look at us today. Before this pandemic, we were hugging and high-fiving and etc. So I think that things will turn to normal. Again, I don't know how long that's going to take though. But I have been trying my best to study models from 1918 to at least create a sense of infrastructure for projection. But I absolutely agree with Pastor Matt. I think that we have to be sensitive and teach our members to be sensitive as we are learning to lead, while we are being sensitive to them learning to serve in this pandemic.
Yeah, Pastor Overseer Mac, I thought that was a great point and a great thought. Us making sure that we are giving concessions to members who are learning how to be pandemic members and certainly post-pandemic members. Certainly a great thought, great idea. Here's something though, it's a side street, since you brought that up, that I was thinking about. You know, I used to try to figure out ways to make sure everyone was in church on time, right? We want you here on time. So we try to spruce up praise and worship and all those just different things that entice people to get into the physical building on time. And something that I realized here recently was we still have certain ones popping in late virtually. And so the same ones that were late physically are the exact same ones who are being late virtually, because you know you can see the little name pop up when they get in there. And so I started feeling better about my efforts of what we were doing, because it wasn't going to work no matter what I did. And so it kind of gives me a different focus when I go back to ensure just keep trucking with what you got going on, because it's going to catch whoever wants to catch it and move forward, whoever wants to be that kind of member or not. So having said that, and I agree with both of you, especially that studying different models to determine how it's going to look based upon what history has shown us moving up to this point. And it'll take a lot of adjustments. We may not be able to say touch your neighbor or look at your neighbor, because they may not need to touch or talk to one another in the early onset of gathering back into a building. With that being said, what will leading look like post-pandemic? What attributes should we be gaining and grabbing onto? What should we immerse ourselves in as best as possible, so that when our exodus happens, whenever that is, what will leading look like? Will it change now that this pandemic has offered what it's offered? I can say for me, I've gained so much knowledge and understanding about, if nothing else, media, that when I walk out of pandemic, I'm loaded with another level of arsenal that I would have never had if I would have paused and or settled myself down. Also, number two, I'm touching people that I probably would have never touched digitally, because of the fact that now many of them are tuning in. We're getting more inboxes, and I'm having a chance to even with my leaders be more intimate with them and letting them come into my world, realizing that it's kind of difficult to do life with people if they don't understand or know your life. And so there's just different things that I've grabbed and I've gained, and I begin to walk in thinking towards the future. What do you suggest? What do you think about leading post-pandemic and the attributes needed?
I would say one of the things that I've been saying that this pandemic has done was expose the church to the authenticity of purpose, to where when we return, or even now, there's a different outlook on how we do church and what the church is doing. I think even now, the church sees its purpose, and there's no way to hide behind the four walls. There's no way to hide behind fluff. We have to, there's no way to hide behind people talking back to us when we preach, which allows us to really operate off of our charisma rather than actually having the substance we need to have to lead them. And so this pandemic has exposed us to the authenticity of purpose, to where we as pastors have to step back now and ask ourselves, are we really being effective? Is the church really active? Is the church really doing what it's supposed to be doing? So I think that after this is over, we're going back with new vision or expanded vision. We're going back really more focused, and our church should be going in a new direction.
That's good. I actually have a fear and a concern, and my concern is twofold. Number one, I holistically agree with Pastor Matt. I think that the church's purpose has always been to be missionally minded. What Jesus gives us is the great commission. He gives he came to give us salvation as it relates to our individual lives, as we are a part of the body. But he doesn't save us to sit. He saves us to send us to serve. So there has to be a mission. There has to be a purpose driving the church. And I think that we see that purpose being fulfilled with a lot of churches. But the challenge is that a lot of people see what we're doing now as substitutions for Sunday morning experiences instead of additions. We were going through our community here on Good Friday, taking baskets to every house that we could. And I stopped. And I don't know if some of the people are watching, some of our people are watching. Hopefully they are, but they'll tell you. I stopped and I said, you know what? I said, we really have to repent. I said, because why does it take a pandemic for us? Like, we should have been out here every single year on Good Friday, because somebody in our community is not coming to our church on Sunday morning, and we still want to reach them with the hope of the gospel. So I think that our leadership model has to be one that is structured on being missionally minded, so that we can understand that God is really calling all of us to be missionaries. So that's the first concern, that the church is going to abandon all of this once we return to the four walls, because we're seeing it as a substitution and not an addition. The second concern is for pastors who know enough biblically to carry ourselves through this season while we manage media, while we manage marketing, while we manage branding. What do we do when we return? How do we maintain that level of presentation when we are now called back to steadfastly steering the ship from a senior leadership capacity? I think that has to really be considered. And I think pastors need to begin, if they hadn't already started, putting models in place, because whatever we're doing right now, we won't be able to do it and lead an actual gathering of individuals once we return.
Okay, so now I think I kind of saved what I feel like would be the coup de grace. All that we've talked about thus far has just been amazing, but here's probably where we got to kind of get, well, we've been real, but even more revealing in this statement. Virtual church versus the physical being, the physical building. Virtual church versus the physical being. Thinking about a couple of things. One, many of us, well, at least you two, I don't know about me. I'm still trying to catch up with Mac and Wilson, but we did travel. Well, you all traveled everywhere. Everyone was calling. You were preaching 4 or 5 nights a week, plus your Sunday morning. And although we were not burning out, because of what we were called to do, as Pastor Wilson so eloquently said, it now offers something a little different with the pandemic, because we don't have to get on a plane. We don't have to stay in a hotel. We can do and give some of the same services we would have given physically, virtually, in our living room or in our office or in our studio, to that church and to that body, without the wear and tear on our body, without leaving our family. You got your hour and a half of your presentation, and you get up and go back upstairs and go to sleep in your own house. Also adding to the mashed potatoes is, for some of us, one, viewership has gone up. And so you're touching a lot more people than you've touched before. Consequently, and I'm just got to throw it out there, for many, offerings has gone up. Now there's some people that has dropped. But then for a few of us, not necessarily saying for sort of truth, but there are some moments where your offering and your tithe has just kind of went straight up, because it's a larger net that's happening when you're doing that presentation. So virtually, there are some major benefits. Physically, some of those benefits we were not seeing. What are your thoughts between physical building versus virtual building, or should there be a versus? And as the young lady posted in the comment, are we creating a monster?
Wow. I think, just to echo what I said a few moments ago, I think one of the greatest challenges is going to be that we're not taking the verses out of. And Bishop Brown, you actually alluded to that. Like, should there even be a verses? I think that the two should complement one another. You're born with two arms. You're born with two legs. You have 2 feet. You have 2 eyes. You have 2 ears. And I think that if we see these opportunities again as additions to the physical gathering instead of substitutions for the physical gathering, I think that we will actually see a greater harvest. With that being said, there is a possibility of creating a monster because people, humans, we are creatures of habit. 21 days to do anything, it becomes habitual. And I think that we're not really having the conversation about the fact that there are going to be hundreds of thousands of individuals who are going to be in love with virtual church. Now, there are some communities that's been doing this. I have friends that's been pastoring 10 campuses, preaching one time and dropping a screen everywhere else. We would try to preach at all 10 churches because in our context, we want to physically be there. And because of that, our people wanted that also. But now that they have a taste of what it's like to not physically be there, the reality is that while there is a phenomenal harvest that's coming to the physical church, I believe it, revival is coming in a physical way. Numerically, we are going to see growth. I believe it. But I do also believe that there are going to be people who do not return to the physical church. And I think that our hearts should be prepared for that. What are we going to do about that? Because, some people have fallen in love with it. They're not coming back to the physical church. And that's a reality. It's an unfortunate reality, but it is a reality.
Yeah, I want to agree with Pastor Wilson in that, and I've been saying that yes, there's going to be a harvest. Everybody's been saying there's going to be a revival. There's going to be people who come to the church and return to the church. But I also think there's going to be a great exodus, as there is those who will be entering the church. There will be those who will not come back or will be exiting the church because of the easiness of virtual church. And so I think as the church is right now, we have to be prepared to handle both. We're going to have to be prepared to make disciples and to make digital disciples. We're going to have to be prepared to handle both sides. So as we said earlier, we're going to have to get our teams ready even now to handle a online church as well as a physical church, because you're going to have the best of both worlds, and you're going to be behind if you don't embrace where we are now. And I think that every pastor, every leader should have some type of prophetic eye to see where we are going and try to keep up, try to push forward, and to see what's ahead and try to make adjustments for what may be coming.
Man, I think all of that is great. My personal conviction is, I kind of threw it in there when I was asking the question or relinquishing the floor to you two, is I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a both and. One of the things that we used to do when we were in the building was attempt to do what we call virtual campus. And so it was the casual mentioning something to the camera, here or there, but the focus wasn't making sure that virtually touched just like they were physically. And so one of the things that we're thinking through and making sure happens is that we develop that virtual campus for the fish that decide they'd like to swim in the pond called internet, juxtaposed to the pond called building. But they all want to be in the same water. And so give them the same water on the platform to which they can thrive in. You have some freshwater fish and you have your cold water fish. And so then if you want cold water but the same kind of makeup, you could do it over here. If you want this kind of water but a different kind of makeup, you could do it in here and provide that platform so that we can touch. And there are a lot of mega churches and things who have the money and all that that's been pretty much doing that, where some of the rest of us may not have actually put that in place as much because we were so focused on the physical piece. And so now I'm learning how, and this isn't my quote, I forget where exactly I got it from, the person I got it from, but I know it's not mine, but I'm going to give them the credit at this point, and after that, I'll take it. Bishop Walker, I think, said it. So it is learning how to not just count footprints, but also count fingerprints, and let both of those be the sum total of the reach of the Sword of Truth, of the reach of Brown Gravy, of the reach of Archibald Enterprises. And so the footprints, physical, the fingerprints, the digital, and marry both of them and find some way to create an umbilical cord to both, so that each gets fed the nutrients needed and discipleship is done. I think you called them digital disciples, Overseer Mac. I thought that was a unique thought. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna give you the credit for that, though. You said it on live, so there's nothing I can do about it. So then when we go back, we're going to talk about our digital disciples as well as our physical disciples and make plans to touch and reach both of them, so that what's been offered to us, we get all the scripture says all things work together for the good of them who love the Lord and to those who are called according to his purpose. So, and then to further that, the Lord says that our steps are ordered. Steps are ordered by the Lord. So just like God orders our steps, he also orders our stops. And I think that the stop was included in order to help us begin to develop that umbilical cord to connect the next net fisher of men to the net that we were more comfortable with, the physical, and grabbing both nets. Instead of getting out of the boat totally, we just cast it on the other side and grab up the fish that's over there, juxtaposed to just abandoning the boat altogether.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, so the next time I preach Luke 5, I am going to include the internet as well. I'm gonna say, listen, for those of you that got a problem with digital church, virtual church, didn't Jesus tell Peter to cast your net out? See, because we've been fishing all night long, but there were a limited supply of what we caught physically. Jesus said, yeah, but you're gonna have to work your other net, and that might just be the internet. So yeah.
That was the net he was referring to, sir.
That's what I'm gonna tell the saints.
The internet. Yeah, preacher, you're probably preaching a whole lot better than I did or can. So holla and then ovulate up and or go up rather. And yeah, I'll pass out like it was all yours, because it is all yours. It is all yours. Yeah, we got to make sure that we help the ones who prefer high tech versus high touch, and so, or high touch versus high tech, and then be prepared for both of those T's, tech or touch, net, internet, physical, and create teams for both, which now offers another problem, or I guess another level of creativity. You don't just develop your team for the physical, you got to develop a team for the digital. Mm-hmm. And there has to be SOPs in place for that. Otherwise, we will squander the resources that God gave us in the ordered stop. I really believe it was an ordered stop, like he orders the steps. And so then we'll get our goods and then do like the prodigal son did, take it and squander it in a strange land, instead of using it for what he meant for it to be, and that is to advance the vision. That now we have an opportunity that we never had before. Many of us probably, I know you two know, but being able to tap into that money that they're releasing from the government, and you can feel like you want to feel about our president Donald Trump, President Trump. You can feel like you feel Like him, not like him. My thing is this: I don't have to like you to spend your money. Uh, we ain't got to be cool for me to spend your money. You give me your money, I'll spend it, but that don't mean we down. You see what I'm saying? And so then if they're offering opportunities and moments, how many of us could put our hands on $10,000 as a grant? I don't even know if people realize that for churches and nonprofits and certain businesses, the government offered a $10,000 grant. Now, imagine putting your hands on $10,000 with a plan to develop the umbilical cord between internet and physical church. We never had that kind of opportunity before. Or are we going to take the 10,000 if you've applied for that and just squander it in riotous living? What's your thoughts there? Then I got to let y'all go. You've already given me an hour, and I'll let you go. What's your thoughts there?
I absolutely agree. I think that, in fact, one of the things that I have said to our leadership team, maybe not all of them, but I have said emphatically, and don't bind me up, don't pray against me, but one of the things that makes I hate the death toll. God wishes that none should perish. So outside of the death toll, I actually hope that this, Lord, the people are going to rebuke me, but I actually hope that this lasts a little longer, because for me personally, I'm like, God, like, if we return now, and I know for Impact Church, you guys are ahead of me, but for Impact Church, I don't think that we are ready. I don't think that we've established that umbilical cord. And I think that a little more time will allow us the resources to be able to establish it. You know what I mean? Because speaking of managing the internet, I need an e-pastor or an I-pastor or whatever you want to call it, because I can't pastor, a whole social media platform effectively. I can be the butter knife to the screwdriver, but if we're talking about assimilation system, taking in members, through, online, like, we're going to have to actually have an internet pastor or a virtual church pastor, and I don't have that in place. Sad to say, yet. So anyway, so for me personally, I think that these are things that are important. And I think that with the extra resources, we would be able to help establish that, because if we get an extra $10,000, one of the things that we may be able to do is possibly put somebody on salary temporarily, at least, to create models that can generate more people, more revenue, just from a business perspective.
Yeah. Well, I've already applied, and I listen. I can't wait to put my hands on that. Plus the payroll protection. I think they call it the PPP, something along the lines of that. I didn't necessarily get into all of it. My deacon grabbed it. And so we're waiting for the different funds, and they call it grant/loan. So then once you get not just the 10,000, the 10,000 is straight grant. On top of the 10,000, you're able to apply for monies up to, I think, 200,000-300,000. Some places gotten like 500,000 according to your payroll and those kind of things, where it's a loan if you don't use it for 75% payroll, 25% operations. If you use it for 75% payroll, 25% operations, it's converted to grant and you don't pay it back. If you don't, it stays a loan, but you get 30 years to pay it back with 3.74% interest. So you got all these major opportunities. We keep talking about the wealth of the wicked being laid up for the righteous, but not tapping into it to do some of those things you just said about possibly putting somebody on salary, whatever the case may be. Overseer Matt, your thoughts?
Well, I think that I don't want to get in trouble, but what are the obligations that may be put on us for taking the money? And I don't want to seem spooky or anything, but I when I see things like that, I want to kind of And I believe in what the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the saints. I believe in it. Don't get me wrong. But what obligations on the back end are we prepared to handle if we make that move? And with there being so many small businesses, so many churches, um, I'm afraid that some of us will get it, as you said, Bishop, and waste it because we're not good stewards over what we have now. The truth be told, a lot of us should already have the 10,000 in the bank now, but because we are not good stewards over what we have now, a lot of us are hungry for this for the wrong reasons. So I think we have to not just look at the fact that, oh, they're giving us money, but what obligations do they have for us for taking it, and what are we actually prepared to handle it?
Yeah, yeah, and certainly do your due diligence. I know I did, and so and if it fits, run with it because you're absolutely right. My first drawback was, no, you're not gonna be able to control nothing here now. We do what we want to do based upon the scripture, and from what I've seen, there's no. It's almost impossible for them to attach strings, and one of the loans is unsecured. But we could talk off camera about that, and I gave you my thoughts. Man, this has been an amazing opportunity and an amazing conversation. Both of you, I think, are probably, if not the premier voices of what I've been yelling for a while. Next now, that you're not next, you're actually now, but it's a next now kind of thought. Basically, because we have a lot of fathers who are still trying to play the game instead of going on the sideline to become more of a coach. And so until that revelation hits the father, we're kind of the next now generation attempting to get on the field and do what needs to be done. And so I appreciate the fact that, one, you all asked me for nothing to come on, and two, that you agreed to come on. Again, you could be anywhere in the world virtually, but you're sitting on the platform called Sword of Truth, and I appreciate that. What I would want some of you all to do while they are giving their final thoughts, because I want to give them an opportunity to just kind of have the floor and give a final thought just about what we spoke about, or something that was in their heart that we didn't get a chance to speak about at all. And while they are doing that, I want you simultaneously to sow a seed in the moment. I know that you've already had your Chick-fil-A and your Subway or whatever, but if you would sow a seed, I'm going to send them a seed. So I'm going to bless them out. I already had in my heart what I wanted to kind of give, but I want you to join me in giving. I can promise you, whatever you sow, it hits an integral place, and you will push those funds towards these two phenomenal men of God, brilliant minds, and they'll receive it. So you don't have to think about, well, I don't know if they're going to get it. I can promise you. And Pastor Wilson knows me personally. Overseer Mack, he and I are going to get to know one another even at a deeper, well, preferably if you want to, personal level. I want to. I believe that people such as you, I connect to that. There's some other folk that like, no. But they can vouch for the fact, or he and I believe Overseer can vouch for the fact that we're integral with how we handle certain things like that. So I want you to begin to make my Cash App jump and even fall off of my desk right here, so that I can, after we get off, send both of them a gift. Cash App $ Bishop Brown 3. And let's be a blessing to these two men of God. Again, they asked me for nothing. This is not preacher talk. This is honesty. They said absolutely nothing about a rider, a digital rider, none of that. They just said yes and got on. Help me bless them. $ Bishop Brown 3. Send the Cash App now, and we'll make sure that they get blessed after this conversation is over. Okay. Brothers, again, appreciate you. Thank you for your time. You've given me an hour and 20 minutes, and I appreciate that. I want you to take a moment and give final thoughts to those who are still on watching. You know that there are some people who are actually on, but they've not clicked it to acknowledge that they're on. They're listening to it just as they're scrolling through. So I think we got certainly more people watching than have acknowledged that they're on. I want you to take a moment and speak to anything that's on your heart. Going back over something that you already said to further drive that home, or something that you'd like to say that we didn't get a chance to say. And either one of you can start. I would say I'll start with the youngest going to the oldest, but y'all probably about the same age. That's you. Well, Overseer, certainly we can start with you again, man. Again, Overseer, I honor you, man, and again with what God has given you, such unique development, an amalgamation of servant and leader, an amalgamation of big church, growing church, and those uniquenesses that go with both of them gives you an edge that many of us don't have. So it sounds like you need to write another book or a book talking about those two dynamics, because it's not, in my estimate, from my purview, ever been done. And you are navigating it with a grace that's admirable. And so take a moment and speak to us, sir.
Well, first of all, Bishop, thank you so much for the opportunity, and please continue to pray for me and the assignments that I have. I want to offer three things for leaders and pastors who are watching and connected. I would offer these three things, and that is number one, assignment, number two, accountability, and number three, assessment. As it pertains to assignment, I think that while we are getting prepared for post-pandemic, we need to be giving our staff, our leaders, certain job descriptions as to what we want to see, what we want the vision to be during this time. One of the things that I've been very much pushing is exposure, and that is exposing our minds to different ministries that are doing things on a higher level, a greater level than we are, to further provoke our creativity to go to another level. And then accountability is really keeping up with our leadership to make sure they're following through on what we have assigned them to do, being that they are not in a place where they have to physically meet with us. And so we don't have an opportunity to micromanage. And so we have to put some parameters in place to hold them accountable, and then challenge them in that accountability. And then the last thing is assessment. I shared this past Sunday, Isaiah 54, and one of the parts of the text says to strengthen that, or to stretch the curtains of thy habitations. And what that talks about is the things that surround the tent, or the things that cover the tent. So those who are around you, you have to be able to stretch them. And many times, while we are assessing those around us, we always have the mentality that we have to cut people off, we have to do away with people, we have to drop people to go to the next level. When the truth of the matter is, one of the things that will test our leadership ability is being able to stretch those who are around us and to make them better into what God has called them to be, or to push them to the next level. There's something wrong with us if we cannot, or we don't have the influence to advance or stretch those who are around us. And so I would say, in that assessment, while you are looking for people to dismiss or to get rid of because they're not working during the pandemic, you should also challenge yourself and assess your leadership ability to stretch those around you. So I just wanted to offer those three things: assignment, accountability, and assessment. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, like I thought, you were gonna kill it. And so, I mean, we can just go ahead and get a benediction.
No, we really can't.
Yeah.
Like we really can't.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's right. All right. And thank you all. Some of you all are sewing. I don't know if you can see my screen or not. It's popping in, and I'll be making sure that these funds get there. Continue to sew. You're doing exactly like I asked. I so love folks who just follow instructions. You're sewing while they're pouring. And I believe God really sends immediate returns to those who do those kind of things. So go ahead and sew. $Brown3 Cash App, and let's get the word of God to the Reshawn Wilson. Sir, give us your parting thoughts as we kind of let everything go. As I've said about Overseer Aaron, We certainly think the world of you, sir. I get godly jealous of all the gifts that you have, and just the things you do don't seem real, although I know you're real because I've touched you, so you're human. So it's not that you don't exist. You literally exist, and you're not an alien because you got two eyes and two arms. So I haven't seen another head pop up anywhere. So it just means that you're supremely gifted to be an influencer in times such as this. And I am so grateful to God that I get a chance to spend, do life with someone such as you, and to experience the gift called Wilson. So would you help us, sir?
Yes, sir. Bishop, once again, thank you so much. We've been friends for years. I saw an old picture just a couple of days ago. I was going through my old phone. I'm going to send it to you. You actually had hair back then. It was a while ago. But,
This is what pastoring did. I had until I started pastoring, then it receded.
But although we've been friends and brothers for a long time, I always want to celebrate you, and I never ever want to get comment. I just appreciate you and what you bring to the kingdom corporately, but also what you bring to my life, both my family and I. Thank you so much for this opportunity, not just to be on your platform, but thank you for this opportunity to be in your life. As Overseer McNair was speaking, I said to myself, well, Bishop Brown didn't tell me this beforehand.
I think we lost him. Hopefully he'll be able to hop back on. He was probably going to say what he needed to say. You see how good God is? God knows how to shut it down. Hold on. Here it comes. All right, sir. So you were probably getting ready to say something that you weren't supposed to say.
Can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Y'all didn't like what I had to say, so you guys booted me out. This is what y'all trying to tell me. Anyway, very quickly, I just want to just encourage all secondary leaders. I believe in many cases that a lot of what we make either or should be considered both and. Jesus is the lion and the lamb. We should be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Jesus is Messiah ben Joseph, son of Joseph, the suffering slave, and Messiah ben David, son of David, the ruling king. So everything that we see about Jesus is bidimensional. He's 100% God and 100% man. Likewise, to all secondary leaders, you need models, you need infrastructure, you need policies, you need procedures, and there has to be a level of honor. And I want to encourage every secondary leader to recognize that as you honor your senior leaders, there is a grace that God will give you, not only for working in ministry, but also to help you survive and live through the remaining season of this pandemic and come out with more than you had before you went in. And I just really want you to let that soak in. If I had to, just give it, I don't know, 5G. I don't know, if you needed a theme for a closing thought, make certain that you are accessing the grace that can only come through honor throughout all of this. And you may not necessarily know all of what your pastor has been doing. Bishop Brown talked about like looking into grants and things like that. That's time that he could have been studying. That's time he could have been with his family. Overseer McNair talked about, just spending time with leadership and things like that. These are all things that we would have been doing, but now we're doing more of to ensure that the couch of our ministry still has legs, and because of course there's no legacy without legs. And so if we are to establish Jesus's and reestablish his legacy in the earth, there has to be something it's built upon. And I believe with all my heart that if you find a way to honor your leaders, set a time, a prayer time, to pray for your leaders, send them text messages. For so many of us, our pastors have reached out to us. Hey, you good? Hey, you good? How many of you have reached out to your pastor? Pastor, I see you distributing food, but do you have groceries? Pastor, I see you being a blessing to other ministries, but what do you need? I think that if we couple the two, and with all of the structure that we establish, if we can find a way, like never before, to engage a sense of honor to our pastors, to our bishops, to I sent my bishop a seed yesterday morning, and in the memo section, it was just because. If we can find a way to honor our leaders, God will release a grace upon us that will, let me tell you something. I believe with all of my heart, that's one of the missing components. If we can manage all of the other perspectives and then honor our senior leaders, we will see church growth. We will see a sense of peace in our meetings. We will see a sense of tranquility in our personal lives. Those things, I believe, are graces that come through honoring. So that's my closing thought. And thank you again so much, Bishop, for allowing me this opportunity. And Overseer McNair, man, it's always good to share a platform with you. You are a tremendous mind, and I'm just honored to call you brother.
Thank you, man. I feel the same way about you. Thank you.
So you all have had an opportunity to feed from some of God's greatest, the greatest minds. He got kicked out again. Now, make sure you let him know both my hands were up. So I did not touch the back room. That's something that happened with his computer or something. So a closing thought. I don't know. A couple of Sundays ago, I preached a message called "What's in the House." And it was based upon the story where the prophet, I think we got him back again. Yeah, it was based upon a story. That's his mic. Okay, yeah. It's based upon the story of the prophet going to the woman, and right before she was told that she had to sell her children in order to pay back taxes from her husband who died in debt. And so the prophet goes to her and he asks her, well, what's in your house? And I thought about the fact that with this ordered stop that God gave us, I really believe that he was giving us an opportunity to assess what's in our house. That we could be so busy being busy with the grind that we forget to take into account what we actually have and or what's missing there. The woman said, all I have. Well, actually, she says, I have nothing. But now either you got something or you don't, but that's an argument for another day. So she was able to determine, this is what I currently have in the house. Based upon that determination, now I know what I need to do in order to ensure that the house is stocked whenever we're released again. And so my admonishment to those who are watching is in 4 P's. One, make sure that there's peace in your house. You may have a heightened sense of anxiety because you realize there's no peace there. Now that doesn't mean you run back out. It only means sit and develop it. Make sure that there is productivity there. 4 P's, productivity, that you are producing something. When God called you, he called you to be a producer, not a consumer. Thirdly, that there's performance. Now, I don't mean in the sense of putting on a show, but that there is movement, that you and what you are is positioning itself to be seen so that other men can marvel at our God. And lastly, protection, that you have your house protected. That is in the physical, it's also in the abstract, that you take care of ensuring that you have insurances that you have life insurance, that you're saving money, doing those kind of things to ensure that your house is protected, as well as in the abstract, your spirit being protected, because many of us were doing the work of God without him. He wasn't with us, and so we didn't really have protection while we were in high exposed areas, which is why we probably fell when we fell into certain things. So then, do we have protection in the house? So make sure that you have those 4 P's: peace, production, performance, and protection while in the house. Access it, see if it's there. If it's not, make sure it is. Brothers, I thank you. I appreciate you. I will be, I think we should do this again at some point, according to how long we got to be sheltered in place. I just think it was a real great moment in Think Tank, and it doesn't have to be on my platform. I don't mind coming to you all's angle at all. What a privilege it would be to be on the great Wilson and the great McNair's the second platform. And so let's think about doing this again and see what comes up out of it.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
All right. To the rest of you, God bless you. Thank you for spending your lunch plus a little more than your lunch with us. An hour and 30 minutes. I think it was well worth it. You did not spend time with us. You invested time. And I believe that God is going to show you the result of the investment that you made today. This is Bishop R. Christopher Brown III, the Relevant Leadership Strategist, senior pastor of the Sword of Truth, and presiding prelate of Kingdom Fellowship of Ministries. And I want to give you a great God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, God bless.